welcome to another episode of Willing to Talk About It. Y'all know I am your host, Daryl Harmon. We got a great show for you today. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, your favorite snack. In today's conversation, Chris G., a licensed mortician and funeral director at Lester G. Funeral Home in Bridgeport, Connecticut, discusses various aspects of the funeral business. He shares his background and journey into the industry, highlighting the education and training required to become a funeral director. Chris explains the process of handling deceased individuals, including the importance of embalming as soon as possible. He also discussed pre-planning, prepayments for funeral services, and the average cost of funerals. A lot of us don't know. I learned some things today. Additionally, Chris addresses the use of platforms like GoFundMe for financial assistance. There is better ways to get the funeral covered. In this part of the conversation, Chris discusses the changing funeral practices due to COVID-19, the importance of being present for grieving families. That means showing up at the funeral, and some of the challenges for running a funeral home that he's faced along the way. He also talks about the role of staff in a funeral home and the need for proper training and professionalism. Chris shares his personal experience of coping with the emotional strain of his work and emphasizes the importance of seeking counseling, something we all don't like to do. He also highlights the significance of pre-planning and having life insurance to ease the financial burden on your family. In this conversation, Chris discusses the importance of getting your affairs in order, having life insurance, updating your beneficiary. He emphasizes the need to separate life insurance policies for your spouse and for your children, and the importance of having a living will. Chris also talks about leaving a legacy for future generations and balancing his work and his personal life. Chris highlights the increasing deaths from fentanyl and the need to take care of your health. He also touches on qualities needed for a career in the field, those of you that are looking to get into it. Chris concludes by sharing advice to his younger self and expressing the importance of making wise choices in life. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, here is Chris G. of Lester G. Funeral Home in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you very much. I appreciate you inviting me onto your show.
All right. So, Chris, your first time here. I want to talk about where are you from, Chris?
Bridgeport, Connecticut, born and raised.
You born and raised in Bridgeport?
Born and raised in Bridgeport, Connecticut. That's right.
Okay,
right?
okay. So now, what was it like growing up in Bridgeport?
During that time, it was kind of a hard time because when you look at it, it was in the 90s, and Bridgeport was averaging 60 homicides a year.
Wow.
It was a tough time. It was hard choices to make, especially going up in the inner city, and seeing the path you could go and the path that people would, be in the in crowd and things like that, So it was a difficult time, especially being a young teenager during those years. And luckily, I had the opportunity to join the service, went to the Army for a while, and then came out and went to the field of mortician. And so I was blessed to be able to go into the Army. That really made a big difference in my life. Along with my family made a big difference, but the Army also made a big difference. Yeah.
Okay. And what influenced you to go to the Army?
I needed a job. I needed something to do.
You needed something to do, right?
My dad said, you got to do something. You can't be sitting around this house,
Yeah, right.
So it was so silly because I saw the commercial that had Be All You Can Be. And I remember, running to my room and going to my top drawer and, going through the change and getting my change and then catching the city bus downtown, down on Main Street. And it's so weird because that office is still there to this day, right on Main Street in Bridgeport. And I remember catching the city bus down there and talking to the recruiter, and before you know it, I was right home the city bus with the Be All You Can Be T-shirt on. That was,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, how long were you in the military? Did you see
I did about 13 years, and then I happened to I got out. I did quite a few years. Well, it was 6 years active duty with the United States Army, and then I got out and went to reserves, the National Guard. Okay. Then I got out from there.
So did you see any action?
No, didn't see any combat, nothing like that. No, I was fortunate not to see any combat. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then you got out of the military, 6 years, came back to Bridgeport.
That's right. Back to Bridgeport. Okay. In the National Guard for like 6 years, another 7 years. Yeah.
And what was the plan when you came back?
It was hard. It was a hard adjustment, getting out from the active duty. When you're active duty, you're around those guys 24/7. There's a lot of camaraderie, a lot of togetherness, and here it's a little different. It was hard for me to adjust. I remember getting my first job at Airborne. I believe it was in Danbury. It was a mailing company, and we were getting off work, and I was like, "Hey guys, what are we gonna do today?" And they gave me the craziest look, like we're not doing nothing today, because when you got off work in the Army, you went out to different things. You did different things together. You moved as a unit, as a team, So it really was difficult to adjust to that. I say I was looking to go out and have some fun, after work, like it was in the Army, but that was totally different out here. Everybody just got in their car and just went their separate way. It wasn't that group movement, which I wasn't used to. It was something hard to get used to once I got out the service.
Okay. And then I heard you say you transitioned, you kind of found your way and said, okay, listen, let me get into the mortician business, the funeral business. And what led you into that? What was the road to getting into that?
Well, I was actually, it was so crazy. I was actually staying upstairs at my uncle's funeral home and wanted to say, hey, let me get involved and see what I can, see what it's about. And I got hooked. Ever since then, I don't want to do anything else. Right. Yeah, I got hooked. He got hooked. He said when he first got into it. And he's been in over 50, well, probably over 60 years now. But I got hooked on it. I just want to, stay in it and get better and better at what I do. And I'm happy to, I'm in a field where I belong, I feel,
Oh, wow.
I was in the service. I was in the service and I was happy to be there, but I really feel like I'm where I was always meant to be. And that's in this industry.
In this industry. Okay. We're going to get to that. Now, what kind of education, what kind of training is required to become, a funeral director or mortician?
It's an associate's degree. And what's so wild about it is that the registered nurses requirements are the same requirements we actually take as far as the science, the math, all the different classes that nursing are required to take. We actually take those same courses. So you'll see some funeral directors that might, once they graduate, might go into the nursing field because they already have all the prerequisites.
Oh, wow. Wow.
They'll have a good 95 to 98% of prerequisites for registered nurse. All you have to do is just take the nursing part. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know all the sciences. You got to do AMP1, AMP2, chemistry. We have to do all of that. Yeah.
So it's a 2-year degree.
2-year degree. And then you got to do an apprenticeship while you're in school, which is you have to do 10 embalming cases. And then once you go ahead, you have to take a state test, which is the boards. And it's about a 500 question test. And it's broken up into 2 parts, the arts and the science. And you have to pass those 2 tests. And then once you pass those 2 tests, you have to do an apprenticeship for a year under a funeral home. And you have to do 50 cases. And then someone from the Connecticut Funeral Director Board will come out and see you embalm. And then that's when they'll say yes or no when you get your license. Wow.
So it's pretty extensive.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty extensive. Yeah. Pretty extensive.
I mean, I'm listening 500 questions.
Background, things like that. You have to clean, can't just. So it's pretty extensive.
Yeah, I'm listening 500 questions. That's not an easy task.
Yeah, it's not easy.
How many hours do they give you to take that, if you remember?
Oh, wow. I say it's at least, I don't think about the time limit, really. When I think back I know it was on a computer. I remember pressing the button when I was finished. I remember when I pressed it, I had my eyes closed and I kind of peeked my eyes open.
Yeah.
And I saw green, so I know green had to be good.
Right. It kind of reminds me of when I took the real estate test when I was in Connecticut. I was a broker, and I mean, it took me twice. I will admit, but it was the law part and then the practical part. So that's for you to say, the science part, and then what was the other part?
It's the arts part. Different questions they'll ask you about the funeral directing industry and things like that. Different questions. So it's a lot. It's a lot of questions to pull from everywhere.
Okay.
During that time of that you're actually going to school, they're pulling it from everywhere. So you have to
Now
be ready.
let me ask you this: without keep us clean. Do you remember your first day, like your first actual day? This is what we're gonna do.
My first embalming, the first embalming I ever saw or I was involved in, you mean?
Yeah, like even though you were maybe it happened before you really got into it because like you said
Oh
you
yeah,
you
before I
were
ever
living
got into it,
upstairs.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep.
that day,
hmm
how was that day?
It was shocking, to see a person kind of open and seeing their head open. It was shocking, but it was nothing didn't scare me away.
Right.
I just got more interested in it, and
Okay.
but it was definitely like, wow, this is it was surreal. I guess it was like, wow, this is what it is.
Yeah, surreal,
You know,
surreal.
yeah.
Now let me ask you a question. Does the cause of death have to be determined before you proceed with any of these things?
No, I use universal precaution for all my cases. I always suit up, wear my mask, wear my gloves. I disinfect. I use, you just never know what's out there. Like just like COVID, we didn't know until it was out there.
Right,
We don't know what's next. So
right.
we have to be careful and treat it as universal precautions, such as nurses do. Should do.
Right.
Should always suit up, wear your mask, wear your gloves, and be safe because you don't know what's out there and what's we had those COVID was still transferable. From what I was told, even as the person was passed away. If you
Oh
were,
wow.
so you have to be careful. And it's probably not easy to transfer, but it is transferable. So you have to wear your mask at all times because things when you're dealing with bodily fluids, things can splash and things can so you want to be careful.
You want to be mindful of that.
Mindful, yeah. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's very easy to have some splash on you, so you have to be very careful.
Okay. So Chris, tell us what goes on after you're called to pick up a deceased individual.
Well, a lot of times I have to get authorization from the family. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll shoot out an email document and they can go ahead and sign and fill that out, which will give me authorization to embalm or not to embalm. Okay. And then once I get that taken care of, that's when I go ahead and proceed forward and pick their loved one up and I transport them to the funeral home. It all depends on what service they request. Sometimes they request a direct cremation, which it does require for me to disinfect and go ahead and get them prepared for that. And sometimes it's a burial. So, and they want a public viewing, so I'll go ahead and embalm and things like that. So that's what I would. That's how it normally happens. Sometimes it takes a family a few days to decide on what they want to do. So.
Okay, and generally, once that you've learned to give a family that kind of that
give them
leeway.
like 48 hours up to that. Give them like 2 days to make a decision and say, hey, we have to make a decision on disposition, what's going to take place for this person, because by law, disposition has to happen, whether it's cremation or burial. One of the two has to happen.
It has to happen. Now, does that affect that time? Does that affect the embalming? Does that have to take place before that?
Embalming, yes. All depends on how long the person already been passed away. It could infect it. It could affect it, yes. Okay. All depends. People think that when you put someone in refrigeration that, oh, we got a whole month just to sit around and decide what we're going to do. It doesn't work that way because the body's still breaking down. It's just breaking down a little slower than it was if it wasn't in refrigeration, but it's still taking place. It's never going to just stop, a dead stop, no.
Okay.
So you want to. I always say the best results is you can embalm right away. As soon as possible, you get the best results a lot of times. Sometimes the person can be out for 2 weeks and you still get a good result. But if you want to, if I had to bet on it, I would say I'd rather have the embalm within the first 24 hours of death. Yeah.
The first 24 hours.
It would be an ideal situation, in my experience.
Okay. And you mentioned the word results, and I'm kind of thinking of so much of my culture. I always hear people say, "Oh, he or she looked good." Are you referencing that when you say results?
Yes, he or she looked good. Sometimes when you embalm right away, if they won't require much makeup, and things like that. If they sit out longer, people tend to get dark.
Okay.
Especially our people. The body tends to make some changes.
Okay.
So it's expected when a person's out for a very long time.
Okay. Now, how do you handle the pre-planning, the prepayments for funeral services?
We have a company called Cooperative Funeral Fund, which is in Madison, Connecticut. And what it is, we have a contract between me and the client, and they'll put down most of the time a very small deposit, like $50 or $100, and then they'll send in as much as they want per year to pay that contract down. So let's just say the contract is say $10,000 or whatever. and they'll say, Chris, I'm going to put down $100 today. And they'll give me that $100, whether in a check or money order or cash, whatever I can receive. Then I'll go ahead and send it into a cooperative fund. And then that person will send in their money every month or even once a year. There's no requirement of, if you don't send nothing in, and just to say I send $100 in, well, guess what? $100 is still going to be there 10 years from now. It's just that you want to go ahead and send money in to pay that contract down because that's what it's for. But keep in mind that it's an irrevocable contract, meaning that those funds can only be used for funeral services.
Okay.
So you can't come to me later and say, hey, Chris, I know I paid down to $10,000, but man, I want a house right now.
Yeah.
It goes into an irrevocable contract. Yes. And
you say that.
Yeah.
You say that like people have attempted to get
people have come back and say they want to buy a car, or have a rent issue, and so it's sad to say, but I can't access that money until that person passes away. I have to provide a death certificate to the cooperative funeral fund for them to release those funds to me to carry out that person's service, what they requested. So a lot of times people might put down money once a year, income tax, like now, income tax time. People say, I'm getting $4,000. I'm going to put that $4,000 on my service. And then the next year I do the same thing. I do that too. So people do it so many different ways, And I think about that money. The reason why I like the pre-need contracts is that if a person decides to stop paying into that fund, let's say they put in $5,000, all of a sudden they ran upon hard times. They don't want to put more money into that fund because they can't. Well, guess what? That money still is there, years and years and years from now. Unlike life insurance, once you stop paying, you got 30 or 60 days to make that up, to correct that.
Correct.
At least that's always there. And but the thing is, you have to let someone know that it's there. Because sometimes people can move, or go into a convalescent home, become ill, and you don't communicate these things and let someone know about your what you've set up. That's going to be an issue when it comes to the time to take care of your services.
Right. And
we don't have there's nobody notifying us saying, hey, Chris, Joe Smith died. Does he have a pre-arrangement with you? Nobody's going to contact us unless if they don't know, and we're not going to know unless we happen to read the paper one day or look online, so you have to let somebody know what's going on, what kind of affairs you have set up.
That's great. Now, do you see many people getting that thing set up, or how would a person know? Because I remember, Chris, my grandparents, they would always, I'm not going to say brag, but they would kind of brag that, hey, our tombstones are already paid for. And people know where to put us. And when my grandfather died, he died before my grandmother. So it was the strangest thing. The first time I went to the grave site to see him, my grandmother's name is there. Yeah. Her year of birth, just not her year of death.
That's right.
I mean, now it's there. She died last year.
Oh,
but
sorry,
it was kind of weird. I was like, wait a minute, what the? But they already had gone through that process of one day this is going to happen, and we've gone ahead and paid for it.
Yeah, I think that generation, that time, I think they were more, I guess, in the military term, more squared away in that aspect. I think we gotten away from that. We got into have people say, "Oh, just throw me in the backyard." I mean, legally we can't do that,
Right.
But so you have to really think things through and really be realistic, But I think that they and it's crazy how they took care of business and not to knock them any kind of way, but when you look at it, they had less technology than we have. They had less education, more likely. They didn't have the high paying jobs we might have today. You know what I'm saying? But they still take care of business. And
they took care of business.
Yes, they took care of business. I don't get that, and why we can't do the same today, why we gotten away from that, that responsibility. Because it's our responsibility. It's not our loved one's responsibility. When we leave, we can't drop it off on them. People say that sometimes, oh, my kids will take care of it. Well, it's not fair to your kids because they may have kids that they have to take care of.
Right.
They have, responsibilities in life, and, to put that burden on them is very irresponsible, very irresponsible. And I understand if someone they happen to go into, happen to fall on hard times and go into hospice, become ill and things like that. That's the exception to the rule. But I'm saying it's people that are able-bodied to take care of their affairs. Those are irresponsible people,
Right.
Other people that, become ill and, some tragic thing happened to them. That's different,
Right.
So I do have some type of, understanding when it comes to that.
Right. Now, earlier you mentioned the policy where you can prepay. You mentioned $10,000. And I think for a long time, until I buried my dad, I thought, hey, 10,000 is the number. As long as you got 10 grand, you can put somebody give them a nice going away service.
Yeah.
So, but I found out that that's not the case anymore, Chris.
No,
So
you used to be, yeah. Go ahead.
what
I'm
would
sorry.
you
I think I cut you
say?
off.
No, no,
Mhm.
no, no. You're not cutting me off. What would you say is about the average? Now, let me give you a scenario.
Mhm.
Person dies in their hometown. They don't have anything set up. They don't have a plot. They don't have a headstone. They don't have any of that stuff.
Mhm.
No casket picked out. They don't have anything prepaid. Nothing at all. What would you say is on average? Now, understand. No, we're not holding you to this. It's an
Mhm.
average. They want a regular service at your funeral home.
I would say it was a pretty well. We have one grave that's here, one cemetery that's kind of inexpensive, I guess. If you want to say $2,895 inexpensive, it's a Mountain Grove in Easton. So you could do a funeral between 10,000 and with that burial, with it might not be the casket of your choice. You have to be a little flexible with that. When it comes to trying to keep the bill low, we
Right,
can definitely have a casket for you and different things, but it might not be what you want. It might be what we call the bells and whistles,
right.
but we'll get you to the grave.
We'll get you to the grave. Right.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
but to have the service you probably want, it's probably going to be around, I would say 12,000 to 15, something like that. That's people that's doing the horse and carriage. I've had a lot of clients do that. The horse and carriage would have the white or the gold horses. They you pick the color horses you want with the carriage. That's really the bells and the whistles and things like that.
Okay. Okay.
And they have the fancy, a lot of flowers, and flowers can be expensive. You can spend $2,000 easy on flowers. So
Wow.
flowers
Wow.
can be very expensive. Most casket pieces probably run you about $225, but sometimes I go to a service and next thing you know, you get there, it's like 10 flowers. So just add that up.
Right. Right. Right.
Very
Right. Right.
expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you say about somewhere pretty much about $10,000 to $15,000.
Yeah, and that wouldn't include and that could include the headstone. All depends on the headstone you actually are looking to purchase.
Right.
Some
Right.
people go in there and they'll spend buy a headstone that costs as much as the funeral. You
Wow.
know, I've had
Hmm.
them do that. Because I have a business too as well. As Madison Ave Monuments on Madison Avenue in Bridgeport, where I just sell strictly headstones.
Okay.
And I do a lot of custom headstones and things like that. So headstones are very expensive, but you can pick an expensive headstone as well, which
Okay.
normally starts around 1,400. So.
Okay. Okay. And a lot of times we see people add those headstones after.
Yes, a lot of them are coming there after. Some are coming there, before the burial even happens. I've done quite a few headstones last year to where a lady did it for her parents, and both of them are still alive. And it's just they have the recess spots for the pictures to go, and the name and everything is on there. Just the dates aren't there, but the headstone, the plots have been purchased. The headstone is there, and it's had quite a few people doing that last year.
Mm, mm, mm,
Yeah, they're preparing.
mm.
Because I know the
Yeah.
cost is going up, and they know the cost is going up every year. That's
Right.
why I even purchased my own graves. Because I said the cost is going up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're so like you say, once you purchase it, you're fixed.
You're fixed, and when you purchase it, and when you purchase the land, the plot, that's purchased. But the opening is what you have to pay at the time of death. And a lot of times people don't understand this. Oh, mom and dad they have their graves, so they're good. We got that part taken care of. Yeah, you do. 50% you do, but you have to pay for the opening of the grave, in which most cemeteries, 99% of cemeteries, are gonna have you do that at the time of death because they would lose money if they had you pay for that 20 years ago. You see what I'm
Correct.
saying?
Correct. Correct.
So they want,
Excavation.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. I mean, this is some good information, man. I
yeah.
really appreciate you giving this out because, like you
Yeah,
said,
you're welcome. Yeah.
Chris, like you said, we have lost that.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
We
we've
have.
lost that. Like, even though my grandmother and
Mhm.
grandfather said that they had it, they didn't explain to me what to do.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
didn't explain to me what to do.
Hmm. They had
So
it, but a lot of times they just didn't have the talk. But you said like you explain what to do.
right, they didn't have the
Yeah,
talk, and so
yeah,
now,
yeah.
you're here, you're willing to talk to us about it,
Mhm.
and that's so precious. That's so precious.
Mhm.
And then we talk about cost.
Mhm.
We're also seeing something we haven't really seen a lot of during the 90s. You and I,
Mhm.
I'm 50. The GoFundMe's. Talk to me about that a
Yeah.
little bit.
The GoFundMe, it's I don't really see people really giving a lot, in GoFundMe. People are giving. I see when it first started, it was doing pretty good. I think over time it's kind of dropped down quite a bit because you have some people that may have been dishonest. So that affected it for the people that really did need help, who do need help. So I see people kind of like, oh, I don't want to give because, I'm not sure if they already paid for the service. Now they just want to go ahead and get their money back, or they want to pay for something else.
Right.
So people are really skeptical now. But we do have on our website to where you don't have to use a GoFundMe. You can go to our website, click on the donation button, and you put the person's name in and give the money, and the money comes straight to us. So you have to worry about that person doing anything that they shouldn't be doing with that money, like planning a
Oh,
party
that's
or
great.
on vacation or
That's
people do
that's
that, yeah.
Oh, that's great. I
Unfortunately.
mean, like you said, that's great. Now, is that something you guys put in place because of the GoFundMe, or did you have that prior
Yes,
to?
because a lot of times the GoFundMe take a lot of money out of that account, like
Okay.
5%, I believe, 3 or 5%, and that's a
Okay.
lot. When you give $100 on our website donating to our family, they get the full $100. Nothing's taken out.
Oh, wow.
The GoFundMe charges a fee. That's how they're able to keep their website up and to keep their
Correct.
business going, I believe so. I
Correct.
understand
Correct.
what I understand. I mean, it's a business they're in, so they have to keep it going somehow. They have to charge a fee.
Wow. That's a big deal. So, Chris, how did COVID affect the mandate of funerals? Not just then, but since after COVID.
Since after COVID,
Did everything go back to normal?
I say it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I think attendance might have dropped off a little bit. I think people are still a little, especially the older people.
Okay.
I think younger people they're going on like nothing happened, but I think the older people are still not wanting to go around crowds, and I see more of them wearing their masks than anything. The older, the 60 and up, 70 and up. I think they've stopped, coming to funerals as often. Seeing they kind of dropped off a little bit. But
Okay.
as far as going back to normal, it's really, I say yes and no, because now you have people that don't want to come in, they want to watch it on Zoom, which we offer. So
Oh,
you see
right.
a whole crowd on Zoom on my computer, and people are doing that now. So it has changed.
Okay.
And a lot of families are requesting that. So for people that can't make it to the service, but a lot of people that don't want to come and be around crowds, so they might have had COVID. So some people just want to watch it online, which I understand.
Right. Especially for those people traveling from out of state.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
out of state.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, because you've dealt with, you've looked into the faces of a lot of grieving families. How important is it to actually be there? Do you think? I mean, each family may differ, but
Mm-hmm.
overall, how important is it to be there? Because I know, Chris, I know you're about to talk.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, once I lost my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and I had already lost my grandfather, but it was different because I had my family there with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I was the only child, or at least the only one that showed up that day. You know how that goes.
Ooh,
you
yeah.
know, so I was the only one there on that front pew, man.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like after, when I knew someone had lost a parent or a loved one that was close, I kind of felt like I had to be there because I had that feeling of what it felt like to sit on that front pew.
Yeah.
So how much of that is impacts and makes a difference?
I think it's extremely important for the family to be there for their loved ones, especially during a time like that. People really can start feeling alone, you know.
Hmm.
And it has some people can do some drastic things when they start feeling alone. And unfortunately, I've seen that side of the house too. People lose a
Oh,
loved one and things like that. They really need someone. And sometimes people don't they don't ask for help, or they don't scream out and say, "Hey, I'm having a problem here." So it's really good to stay really connected and see what's going on with your loved ones and be to support them and stay in touch after the service. Give them a call, drop them a line,
hmm,
what's going on, because a lot of times, especially us men, we don't want to admit it, but we'll sit in that room and we'll be going through it,
right,
and start
right, right.
reaching out and saying something to somebody before you know it, you make a very bad choice. And you
Yeah,
start doing things you shouldn't do. But I think it's a very important time to bring the family together, especially when you lose a piece of your family,
right.
to be able to fill that gap. You're never gonna fill the gap with that person, but you have to bring the family a little closer because there's a piece missing. So I
Okay.
think it's important that the family gets even tighter. Which is kind of sad nowadays because it seems like when death does occur in the family, it kind of tears the family apart, and it's doing
Hmm.
the opposite of what it should be doing.
Hmm.
When it
Hmm.
should be bringing you together, it's tearing you apart. And sometimes for the silliest things. Why it's the family is being torn apart during a time like that. It can just be because someone feels like this person has more control than they have, and this person calling more shots than they're calling, and it's not the time for all that. I think it's a
Right.
time to say, hey, our loved one is missing, we're grieving, and we miss our loved one. We want to celebrate that loved one in a not in a disrespectful way, arguing and making a scene at the funeral and things like that. You want to get away from that and just, and show that person respect, especially
Right.
at the service, so which is kind of people are showing respect for the most part, but unfortunately we do see a breakdown in the family and the separation, people sitting in different seats and things like that,
Yeah.
they're not getting along with this side and that side. But I understand, you have, my family's not perfect, so I
Right.
understand you have family, rifts here and there, but at some time you got to know how to just put that aside and just come together. You got to be adults about things.
Yeah, and that's a good piece that you just gave, and it kind of leads me into how do you handle, you as a funeral director, as a staff, how do you train what to look for with families that come in and they are either grieving or they're pulled apart? Is it something that you say, hey, we have to get this family together before that day?
Oh, I actually bring it up to the family a lot of times. I will bring it up and say, hey, I know there's something going on. I'm not trying to get in your business, but this is the time that we need to, pull together,
Okay.
for your loved one that's not here. He wouldn't want to see this, or mom wouldn't want to see this. So I would bring it up in a gentle way, in a soft way, let them know that, hey, it doesn't make sense for you to be arguing about things. I'm here for you all, and I want everybody to have equal say what's going on with the service. But sometimes people feel like I'm the beneficiary, so I'm gonna take over. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes that person leave them in charge of things. So because maybe they only trust that person to take care of their affairs. So you have to respect that person's last wishes. So I do bring up to the family, and I do touch on it. Let them know that I'm here for them, and and sometimes they want me to not tell this person this, and I let the family know I'm kind of caught in the middle of both sides of the family. I'm trying to keep everybody at peace, and they can see that. I can see they can see that. And sometimes they tell me, even when it's going on or after the service, thank you for being there, So it is noticed when I try to intervene a little bit, but you gotta keep a safeguard on that too. You gotta kind of know when, you gotta know your boundaries.
You know, as you spoke that, Chris, I go back to what you said earlier because I'm looking for it. You said it's something that you're where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I do.
And,
I do.
and,
I'm really honest, 100%. Definitely
yeah,
feel that.
and it seems like for a family that's either torn apart or for that grieving mother, that grieving family member, that's where your passion and your concern and your empathy, that's where it seems like it comes in, where you
Yes,
feel like,
yes.
yeah, I'm in the right place.
Yes, I 100% feel that way, and also for the deceased too. Taking care of them properly. I feel that that's one of the things. My uncles, I was saying, I was the person that was in the back room, then embalming and all that. He said, "Chris, you got to come out of there and get to the desk. You can't you can't be back there all the time. You got to meet the family. You have to be the business basically. So yeah, so I really enjoy that part of the job too. Taking care
Okay.
of the people. Taking care of the deceased. Yeah, that's right. That kind of like fascinated me when I first started, and
Right.
it was like, they come in not in a very good state, and then I'm able to bring them to a, very good state where the family's very happy. And that kind of like, when I see the whole transition of the person, it really, that's what kind of really hooked me. Yeah.
Wow. I like where this is going. I mean, I didn't think we could get to this place, but I didn't know what to expect. But I
Yeah.
really like where this is going, Chris. I really appreciate you for coming and sharing this a bunch with you. We got a little bit more to go.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the challenges you face just running a funeral home? I mean, some of it is the family, but other than that, outside of that, what are some of the challenges you face running a funeral home?
I can't really say it's challenges that I face. I'm trying to think. I can't really. That's a good question.
Yeah.
When it comes to challenges, I mean, challenges really is sometimes you get so busy to where you have to coordinate. Sometimes you have to call other funeral homes to ask for help. As far as usually I had to call, like this weekend. I had to call someone for our Monday service because I had one of my guys go on vacation. So you have to start scrambling around because some families order 3 limos and you have a hearse, and so it's a lot of have a lot of staff. You run into that problem too. And you run into a problem with people saying they want to go into this industry and they give you their number and everything, and then you call them, they don't answer, they come
Yeah.
with excuses. So sometimes it's hard to find personnel, the right personnel. Sometimes you can find people, but it might be the right person. So you have to be very selective, who you want to work at funerals, because you're dealing with something very sensitive, and especially with today's world. People are so used to pulling out their phones for everything. We don't need that around the funeral home. Definitely not allowing that. So that phone has to stay in your car, in your pocket or something, but we don't allow that. So it's a very sensitive business. So I'm very like a better term, like a watchdog.
Okay.
Don't let
Okay.
anybody come. You have to be right to step in here and work at this funeral home. I'm just not gonna put somebody in the spot because I need a body there. I
Right.
need the right person.
It's funny because I had this written down, Chris, but I was written down at question number like 39, and we on question like 15. But
Okay.
but that's great. How important is that staff? I mean, because they're an extension of you. You
Well,
do
that staff is
again. You
very
don't want
important.
anybody insensitive.
That's right. That's
And
right.
all these things. You don't want nobody gossiping, telling people's
Gossiping, going
business.
out there saying things in the street and telling
Yeah,
their friends and everything. You don't
yeah,
need that. You need people. It's kind of like a secret society. You need people to keep things. Certain things are not should be discussed.
right.
And you have to be punctual. You have to. You can't call and say, "Hey, Chris, I can't make it. I'm sick today." It's one of those jobs you have to show up sick. I'm
Right,
sorry.
right,
I hate to say it, but you do, because a lot of times we don't have anybody to cover you.
right.
When they family requests 3 limos and we need 3 drivers. We need this, we need that. So we need enough staff. So it's not a kind of job you can just say, "Hey, I'm not feeling well today. I'm not coming in." So it's we need the very, very dependable people. Because family might call me in the middle of the night, 3, 4 in the morning, and someone passed away at home, and I can't say, "Hey, I'll get to you at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning when I'm a better time for me." I have to leave then. So
Right, because you mentioned earlier that 24-hour embalming period, or
yeah.
it's a rush
Plus,
to make
the
some
family can't
decisions.
sit in the house with their deceased loved one there for hours and hours. So you have to get there within an hour. I always tell
Okay,
people
so
I'll be within an hour.
that's pretty good. I'm gonna shift off a little bit. So if a person passes away in the home,
Mm-hmm.
they can just call the funeral home.
Yeah, so a lot of times they will call the police first, which
Okay.
is good, because the police are going to notify the ME's office, the medical examiner's office, if the person's not on hospice. If they're on the hospice care, you have to call the police. You just notify hospice will call us, and it'll go that way. But a lot of times a person died home and not under hospice care, the police will be notified. Then obviously most of the time the ambulance will come, or the fire department will come, and then they'll contact the medical examiner. Medical examiner will determine whether or not they're going to pick the case up and have the person picked up and transported to their facility, which is in Farmington, Connecticut. And if they don't, they'll just say no, release to a funeral home. They don't find, say a person has a medical history where it shows heart disease and things like that, and they can see their whole medical history. They're probably not going to bother to come and pick the person up and do an autopsy.
Okay.
A lot of times autopsies are done by the medical examiner when it's a untimely death, like a person that's 16 just passed away at home, or
Right.
if it's suspicious death or something like that.
Right. Right. Or if the family says we want to do it, or somebody
Oh
says
no, it still won't do it. No, still won't do it. They have to say that no, especially the person has the medical history of illnesses, they won't pick it up. Yeah, a lot of times when the ME says no and the family wants an autopsy, the family a lot of times will have to go to an outside source. And the outside source here that will do it for free will be Yale New Haven Hospital in New Haven. They will do the autopsy. From what I understand, they do the autopsy, but they don't do toxology. They don't draw the blood and all that. So
Okay.
what I was told, I'm kind of touching on the separate area that
Okay. Okay.
I'm
No, that's
not
fine. That's
Yale.
fine. Yeah. Yeah. That's
But I'm
fine.
just telling
That's
you
fine.
from my experience. A lot of times when the medical examiner turns them down, it's when they reject the case, they will go to an outside source, and that's why I refer them to. Actually, I'll say, hey, I know a place named New Haven Hospital. They'll be able to do it for you. So sometimes they'll go that route. Sometimes they won't.
Right. Now that's going to obviously delay the embalming process.
That will delay the embalming, yes. That will delay the embalming, yes. And autopsy is very it's very invasive, so it does take more time to embalm a case like that.
Okay.
It's a lot more work involved.
Okay. So I think that touches on some of the restrictions and regulations that a family should know about.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other like restrictions or like mandates the families you think that they should know about?
Restrictions that I can think of off the back restrictions and mandates. I know within 48 hours you have to decide what you're going to do. We're going to have to embalm. You have to give me a certain decision of what's going to take place. Um, but that's about what I can think of as far as that. I can't think of anything else, you know, that I can think of.
Oh, okay, Chris. Now dealing with
The family's not really held to anything. We're kind of held to the to all
you're
the
held
rules.
to the fire.
Yeah, the
Y-
family they have nothing to worry about,
Yeah,
basically.
because you're governed. Your
Yeah,
license.
exactly. Yeah, nothing
Your
to worry
license
about.
is on the line.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys randomly get audited? Do people come in and say, "Hey"?
Oh, the public they can stop in and check our files. You know, Department of Health and definitely do that. Stop in and pull our records and
So that's great.
anytime they they can just come in tomorrow, not even have to call or make an appointment. Just stop in. You answer the door. They come right on in and they want to start pulling folders and looking around. They can rightfully do so,
Right. Okay.
which I totally understand. You know, you want to be doing things the correct way. You know what?
Right. Now, you mentioned earlier about the staff, and it sounds to me like you have a pretty good staff.
I have a very good staff. Yes, very good staff, very professional. I'm very happy with my staff. Always looking for new people to bring on board. You know, as business continues to get better.
Uh-huh.
Uh, always want very good staff. Very important. Very important. My staff is very important to me because if I wasn't for them, I would be able to do my job. You know,
Right. Right.
yeah, I can
Right.
go ahead, I can do this and that, but ultimately, I could not do a funeral by myself. You know,
Right. Right.
so
Right.
I definitely need my staff, so they very much appreciate it. Appreciate it, and I try to show them that I appreciate them too.
Okay. Okay. And we talked about it a little bit before, but what is that process like for someone? Are you seeing less and less people wanting to get in the funeral business?
No, I'm not seeing less and less. I see people inquire all the time, and they'll leave you their number, and you have like 3, 4 numbers, and you call them, and they're not answering the phone. They come with excuses. Sometimes it might be a good fit, but they don't have a driver's license. So you still can use those people, but it still is a big help when they have a driver's license.
Correct.
Able to drive the hearse, able to drive limousine, able to that really helps a lot.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but I do have you do have people that show a lot of interest, but they just don't follow through on it.
And what about for morticians, people that are actually coming to you for the apprenticeship that you mentioned?
I actually have a young lady recently just came to me, and she's doing an internship for a school, which is Goodwin College. She's in the Mortician program, and she's been shadowing me and things like that, been inside the embalmer room and helping me out with cases and things like that. So hopefully, when she graduates in May, I hope she gets her license and she'll be able to continue to work with me. So that'd be great. She's a lot of she's really doing good so far. So.
All right. So I'm a carpenter, by the way. So
Oh, okay.
I understand passing it down kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like how your uncle
Mm-hmm.
Lester passed it down to you. My son don't want nothing to do with the carpentry business.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. But I
Mm-hmm.
understand the whole apprenticeship and learning and just giving that person, that young lady, some of the things to learn and do
Yes. Mm-hmm.
to be professional.
That's right.
And
That's the key. Professional and kind.
eh,
People are going through a very difficult time, and they don't need you. Being a jerk, basically.
right,
They don't
right.
need that. They don't need any type of bad attitudes, nothing like that. And sometimes people can give you a bad attitude, but you got to be understanding that they're going through a very difficult time, and it might not even be the way they normally act or the way they are. It's just that people sometimes when they're going through a stressful time or a grieving time, they might react totally different. Might say some things they probably don't really mean, but you have to look past that and forgive.
Having said that, Chris,
Mm-hmm.
you live in Bridgeport.
Yes. Yep.
Been there all your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds to me like you know what to expect with the embalming, the picking up of the body,
Mm-hmm.
the payment, and how we going to get it, the cemetery, opening the grave, all that stuff.
Yep.
Based off of the age of the deceased and the type of death, do you prepare differently for the funeral?
It depends on what type of funeral we're talking. It depends what type of, sometimes if it's a homicide or things like that, I might, you have to be different people come in of different walks of life. You have to be able to adjust to that. You can't, it's not going to be like a church crowd, it's when the deacon passed away, it's totally different crowd, so you have to be prepared for that, but most important, I never ran into a hard time or had anything negative happen or bad happen, because I think when you show people, whether it doesn't really matter what background they're from, when you show genuine respect I think you tend to get it back. You
Okay.
know, I think you
Okay.
tend to get it back. So I never really had a problem with it. People, I know how to approach people too. You know how to
Right.
approach people when they're not doing the right thing in the funeral home.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's all in your approach.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, I tell you, if you start out screaming, you might get screamed back at.
Right.
So
Right.
you have to
Right.
know how to approach people. It's this job, but it's to be a people person. If not to deal with people, and people want respect, and so you have to give respect. So
Right. 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 That's great. That's great to know that, you have an awareness
oh yeah,
about the business and about what to expect, and you're prepared mentally, physically, and you're able to lend that down to your staff
yes,
and ensure the family, those ones that are on that front pew grieving,
oh yeah,
um, and that this is going to be a well-run service, and one not memorable in a negative way,
That's right,
not memorable in another way. Now, dealing with loss and grief on such a regular basis, how do you personally cope with the emotional strain of your work?
uh, I just love what I do. It's not an emotional strain to me. Um, I feel blessed I'm able to do it. I hope I really pray that I have many, 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 many years left to stay in this state, in my industry, my field,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel blessed. I don't see it as a strain or nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't feel like I'm working, to tell you the truth. It doesn't
It's
feel like I
funny.
am. Even though I have 16-hour days, it doesn't feel
Oh,
like it.
wow.
You love
16
what you
out.
do. You love what you do. It doesn't feel like you're working. I
Yeah, I
guess
know what you mean. I
they're
know what
right.
you.
Yeah, people say that. You love what you
Yeah,
do. It makes a
yeah,
big difference.
yeah. I feel that way a lot, Chris, when I'm working. To be honest,
Yeah, yeah.
and you may have just, my mom used to say to me all the time, and maybe you've heard the old say this. My mom said, "There's three things you're gonna do.
hmm
You're gonna pay taxes.
That's right.
You're gonna stay black." Yeah, she told me you're gonna stay black and you're
That's
gonna
right.
die.
That's right.
And she
That's
told me
true.
that at a young age. So I guess it's this just the acceptance of it.
Yeah, yeah. We all have to go down this road, and we're all gonna have to pass away at some point.
Uh-huh.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, but sometimes you run into a case, a little child or something like that. You're like, wow, it's really that he doesn't belong in this room. So
Right.
yeah, but it doesn't really, you know, I can't say it touches me, but it still have a job to do. I
Right.
can't do
Right.
my job if I'm gonna be having eyes full of tears, so to
Correct.
speak.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
you definitely feel it,
Yeah.
but you have to go ahead and do your job. My way of getting through it is doing the best job possible for that young man or young woman on that table, whether it's a baby, a child, or an adult. So that's my way of getting through it, making sure they're seen under the best light. This is their last time ever being seen by their loved ones, in my opinion. I know it's afterlife and everything like that, but it's my opinion. I want to make sure that they're looking their very, very, very best. So that's how that's how I try to get back and really get through the whole process, is really doing a good job.
Wow. Wow. And I know you mentioned this is the last time they're going to be seen by their loved ones.
Mhm.
In some cases, there's a closed casket, but that doesn't necessarily mean the family, the invited folk, have not seen their loved one for the last time. Correct?
Yes, that is correct. I remember Sunday, I had a family come and they viewed their loved one in the casket, and they viewed their loved one. And Monday, when the service was at the church, the casket was closed. Sometimes people don't want. My mother even says it. I don't want people looking down on me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this woman had to have the same thing. She didn't want people looking down on her. So, but her family was able to view her and spend that time with her at the funeral home, and then the next morning she was brought to the church, and then there was a closed casket.
Okay. 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 Now you mentioned your mom, and
Mhm.
so your mom's still alive, and from what
Yes,
I
yes,
from what I know, your father's passed away.
yes. He has. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, since you've been in the business.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, and now
That was in 2020. He didn't pass away from COVID. He passed away before COVID even was, really became big in national news and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, and now what was that like for you? Because you mentioned
hmm
this is part of your job, but now we're not talking about your job. We're
Yeah.
talking about the same grief. You're on that
hmm
front row now.
hmm Yeah. It feels, it's a hurtful time. You feel down about it. You wish it wasn't so, but it's part of life. And it can be weird. sitting on the other end of the table. You
Correct.
used to be on this end, now you're on the other end,
Right.
And I actually went to a friend, and he actually took care of my father's services up in New Haven. I did an apprenticeship with him, and he took care of my father's arrangement for me.
Okay.
I think that would be best. I'd rather him do it, and
Okay.
have time just to process everything that was taking place,
Right.
But some funeral directors do their own loved one services. To me, I just rather during that time, I just thought it was best for him to do it. Sometimes you
Right.
got to
Right.
make those calls.
Right. Because I mean, at the end of the day, that's your dad.
Yeah.
That's
I
your
don't want
dad.
to do that to him, and bomb
Right.
him and all that. He needs a certain amount of privacy, and even though I gave it to him while he's alive, why not give it to him while he's passed?
Right.
That's how I see it. But
Right.
some directors will go ahead and do it. Do their loved ones. Me, I'd rather have someone come from outside and do that, take care of my loved ones.
Wow.
It's just a personal preference.
Right. So you've but again, you've dealt with that grieving process, so you
Yes.
know yourself.
Oh yes, I know. Yeah.
You know. Do you find that people come to you after looking for counsel?
Sad to say, with our people, we deal with it on our own. I think we don't realize that we need counseling. I have a sister that's she's into that. In psychology and all that. And she's like, Chris, I can do the bereavement and all that. I said, Jill, unfortunately, our people just don't believe in counseling when we do need it.
Right.
Especially some families really do need counseling. Some families lose 3 people in a year.
Wow.
You can't tell me you're okay.
Right.
There's no way you can be okay.
Right.
But they'll just sit there and deal with it somehow. And but I think our people need to put the stigma aside about counseling. I think we have a stigma about it. I think it's so that we're crazy or we're weak or this and that.
Right.
We deal with our own way, and we say these things jokingly, but we have to stop that and realize that it's serious. And we should seek counseling when we have issues. Because death is hard to deal with, especially when it's a close loved one, and especially when you lose family members back to back. I have people that have come to me 3 times in a year, and it's sad. It's sad.
Wow. So now let me ask you another question. We talked about it a little bit, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to that family right now? Even me, but you wouldn't be talking to me, but
yeah,
that doesn't have anything prepaid for. They don't have they haven't given you $100. They haven't given any funeral home any money towards their expenses. They don't have any life insurance. What would you say to that family?
I would say to that person to go out there and get a policy, even if it's a $5,000 policy, even if life insurance can really be cheap. People have habits out there. They can run to the liquor store and spend $50 and not think about it when they can't spend $50 a month taking care of their affairs, and it leaves their family in a bad situation, and it's an embarrassing situation at that. They're embarrassed to have to ask friends and put their loved one's face up on social media, please donate, and they're humiliated, and I think some people say, oh, just throw me in the backyard or whatever, bring in the backyard, but it's just not done that way. And you want to save face for your family, because they're left to deal with the aftermath, and if you think about some of the money you spend on some of the things, we spend money on apps and all type of stuff now. Sometimes we have apps we don't even use anymore, and we're still paying every month.
Yeah, you're right.
Trace those things down. So we have so much money that we have, but we just don't realize that we have so much, and we just throw it away instead of putting it into the right places. And sometimes life insurance can pay for your policy and pay for your funeral services, but why not leave something more for your loved one behind? Maybe they can purchase a home or even start a business.
Correct.
People think, oh, I need $100,000 to start a business. No, you probably just need 10 or 15, depending on what you want to do. So you might be able to help your family and help generations just by leaving a pretty decent policy.
Right.
But your policy is $50,000. I would tell you, I'll be the first one to tell you, do not spend $50,000 on your funeral. You spend what you have to spend, and then the other 35, 40 or so, you go ahead and that should go to a family to maybe purchase a home or start a business and start some looking out for generations to come. I think we have to get more into just stop thinking about ourselves and thinking about the next generation, 2, 3 generations down the road. I think we're so
Correct.
focused on just and life gets us that way sometimes, and the bills are steady coming in, it's not stopping, and we tend to just start looking at ourselves and thinking about just us. You know, we can't think that way, and we got to realize we're just throwing money. Even my friend said, he said, Chris, some of these guys out here, they buying $200 sneakers, don't have life insurance. You know, $200, you could have paid your life insurance for the whole year. You know, it's sad. You know, they're not thinking about that. You know, and they're you're taking care of Jordan and everybody else, and then when you pass, Jordan don't take care of you.
Jordan don't take care. Man, listen, hey Chris, you might have coined something there.
Yeah,
you taking care of Jordan, but you done passed, and Jordan ain't taking care of you.
No, he's not.
yeah. You can't send him that funeral bill.
No, you sure can't. You know.
No. You can sell those Jordans. I mean, they got the
That's
black
right.
market and
That's
all
right.
that kind of stuff. You done sold a closet full of Jordan to
Yeah.
pay for your funeral, right?
Yeah. People say, they're just really concerned about living and not. They say, I'm concerned about living. I'm putting money into death, and it's like, you know what? You really don't have a choice when you think about it. You know, it's kind of like car insurance. People have car insurance for 20 years, never been in an accident, but you better have that car insurance.
You better have it, right?
Yeah,
right.
It's just like that. And I think at some point they might start forcing you to have life insurance. That would be a good thing, I think. We're forced to get health insurance now, and if you don't, you pay a penalty. So I think it might be a good thing that we do start having people pay for, maybe like they did healthcare. You have to pay for life insurance. You have to pay for car. You have to pay for car insurance now. And if you stop paying for it, what happens when you go register a new car? There's a fine, right?
There's a fine.
$200 in Connecticut,
Wow,
that's something. You let your car insurance lapse, Now you get another car, you want to re-register, or you want to register that about another car, you have to pay a fine of $200, something like that. But you see what health insurance, there might be a penalty if you don't have health insurance. So maybe one day they might do that for life insurance. I think it would really benefit our people, hopefully, that we can stop leaving our affairs, to other people's hands, financially,
That is remarkable that you've said. Is that like some of the things that funeral directors talk about?
No. I've had this conversation with my casket salesman actually about maybe one day they'll have people, making mandatory to have life insurance, like they do healthcare and car insurance,
Yeah.
But, we were just having that conversation.
But it's remarkable because when you think about it, it's like you said, it's gonna happen, and there's an expense. There's no alternative.
There's no way out. There's no side door you can slide out of this one.
Yeah, great stuff, man. I mean, I've never heard that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And now the other thing is like, how often do you see, Chris? I'm 50 years old, single now, 3 kids, 19. My son. Well, he's 18. He'll be 19 in a week or two. My daughter's 17. My other daughter's 21. I'm single. Couple years down the road, I get married.
Okay.
My kids don't get along with my wife.
Uh-oh.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
I pass away.
Oh.
I leave everything to my kids because I already had it. And let's just say I didn't change the beneficiary on my policies. My kids definitely ain't giving my wife nothing.
Yeah.
And everything's in. How often, and it may be going a little bit outside of where you deal with, and if it is, that's okay. You can tell me. But what do you, when we say get your affairs in order, what can you lend to that as a picture to show my audience and myself what that looks like? What does that mean to have your affairs in order?
That means to, obviously have life insurance or a prepaid plan. Obviously make sure your beneficiary is up to date, especially if you get, remarried. You want to leave your spouse something. It's crazy because before I even, I worked at the VA hospital for a while, and it was a young man that passed away. And unfortunately, instead of him leaving his wife the beneficiary, he left his baby mother the beneficiary. And the wife does have the power because she is the wife, but she didn't have the money. So in order to have the service she wanted, it had to be the baby mama take care of the arrangements. You see what I'm saying? So it left her in a very, very bad situation, and you don't want to leave your spouse like that, or your children in that kind of situation. So you have to leave that spouse the life insurance policy. Maybe you should have 2 separate ones, if you need to. One just for your wife, one just for the children. You know, it might be
Mhm.
something people can consider. People sometimes will have a life insurance policy where they have minor children on there. And once there's minor children there, we can't use the policy. The funeral home can't be in contract with the minor child. So you want to have if you want to leave your grandkids something behind that are minors, make sure that policy is separate from the policy you're going to use for your funeral arrangements. You know, so that's very important. You want to make sure you update your beneficiaries too, and looking to get in the living will. You know, leaving things in order that way. You know,
Mhm.
but
That will is very important.
that's very important. You want to do that. Yeah, living will is very important. You know, and you want to make sure. You know, I always say you want to leave. I guess the Bible says the wise man leaves something for his, you know, his children's children. You know, so you want to leave something behind for your kids at least. You know, if you can't, I know everybody's not financially in things that happen, but you
Right.
want to leave something behind for your children, at least a little something. You know,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So just want to leave something behind. You know, that not only take care of your affairs, but sometimes it's helping the next generation. My mind's always the next generation. I
Right.
want to make sure I can, you know, leave them something behind. You know.
Right. 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 So when you're not doing your 16-hour days,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds like it's very rare.
Oh no, I have a break sometimes. I have a break sometimes. I
Okay.
have a headstone business, so I'm busy doing that too. So I
Okay.
run between both, and I have to run to New London too because Lester has his he has a funeral home up there as well. So I go up there and help him out. He's 84 years old, so I help
Okay.
him out a lot. And I want to take a little vacation. A lot of times it's gonna be like a little weekend thing, like Friday to Monday morning. The guy Curvin I mentioned, he'll cover me. And I do the
Okay.
same thing for him, vice versa. So we try to get
Okay.
I try to get at least one weekend in a month, or you know, sometimes it's too busy. I might get one in every 2 months. But
Okay.
he covers me. You need somebody to cover you, somebody to totally 100% trust, and I definitely trust him. So
Right.
that means, you know, he gets the keys, everything, and when I step away, he steps right in. He deals with the
Yeah.
families and everything. So
Now he or she has to be a licensed
they have to be a
mortician.
license. Yes, they
Yeah.
have to be a licensed funeral director. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. That's
100%.
great. That's great. Now,
Yeah.
other than that, what other hobbies do you have?
Hobbies? Ugh, I don't have
Golf?
any
You play a little
hobbies.
golf?
No, I don't play any golf at all. You know,
Okay.
I'm a real TV junkie, I guess. I watch a lot of Netflix. Yeah,
Oh, Netflix
that's what I
movies.
tend to
Okay.
do. Yeah, I watch a lot of Netflix. Yeah, I like to watch movies and stuff like that. But I really don't have any type of any hobbies, nothing like that.
Okay.
You know.
Well, watching TV could be a binge watching is
Yeah,
a hobby,
I like
man.
to watch TV, a lot of
And you
movies. Yeah.
probably got your snack going on.
Yep. Oh yeah, I need to cut back on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. You
I
cut
need to
back on
cut
your
back
snacks.
on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. As we bring up snacks and you say cut back,
Mhm.
do you know the cause of death if it's not obvious?
Something. Well, a lot of times it will be put on a death certificate, and if the person has an autopsy at the medical examiner's office, that's the only time I will not know because it'll say pending further studies, and
Okay.
then maybe about 2 months to 3 months, something like that. The results will come back, and they will call and notify me, and then they'll notify the vital records, and they will
Okay.
update that death certificate at vital records. And keep in mind, the family will be given a form in an envelope, which is from the medical examiner's office, that we give to the family that they will mail in for the autopsy report. Keep in mind that they do charge for the autopsy report. I believe it's $40. So
Okay.
if you want to know what happened, you have to pay for it. But a lot of times when they die at a hospital, that's when you know the causes of death. If they die and they go to the ME's office, unless it's obvious, like a homicide or a car accident or something like that,
Mhm.
then you would know. But other than that, you have to wait for the autopsy to be completed, which takes about 6 to 8 weeks now. It did take longer during COVID, but now, I say it was 6 to 8 weeks now.
Mhm. Now, do you find, Chris, that just young black men are dying a little premature? Now, we trust that God, everything's on His time. At the
Yes.
same time, we could
Mhm.
be maybe do a little less of something so that we can speed up that time. Have you seen that throughout your career?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it quite a bit. Young men passing away.
Mm.
Unfortunately, young black men passing away more than you would think. In the 40s and the 50s when they should be alive.
Right.
It can be. I had a lot of cases where it was fentanyl. I had a lot of those
Oh,
cases.
fentanyl.
Oh, fentanyl it's out there. Yeah, it's out there more than people think. It's really out there. Yeah, and doesn't discriminate. And you go to the ME's office. There's a board. You can see it. You see people that are 70-year-old fentanyl. It's like, oh my God, what's a 70-year-old doing? But it doesn't discriminate. It's just people have a habit. So unfortunately. But it can be, a lot of weight. Weight is one of the killers, and fentanyl, and not taking care of ourselves, not getting the proper exercise, and it's tough. I mean, I understand we're all working a lot of crazy hours, and we're all busy with life, and I'm gonna be honest, a little bit of laziness involved. We sit on that phone an hour or two, and
Yeah. Or we
playing with our
binge
phone,
watching
we working
Netflix.
out. Yeah, knocking Netflix. Yeah,
Eating all them snacks.
eating all the snacks. So you gotta
Yeah.
take care of yourselves. It's a challenge sometimes. But yeah, realize that it's hard sometimes for us, especially people that are workers and things like that. It's hard sometimes to put yourself first, but you have to. Take care of yourself. You have to put yourself first. Make that time for yourself. That personal time. Take care of yourself.
Now you mentioned the fentanyl. How is that regulated? Because the funeral homes use it, correct?
I never, we don't use fentanyl. No.
I apologize. You used embalming fluid.
Embalming fluid, yes.
Now that was a thing back in the day, wasn't it?
I believe it still is a thing. I think
still is.
They call it dust now. I think they call it dust. I think people it is a thing. I believe still. We keep it locked up and secured. Obviously the funeral home has cameras. We have a lot of cameras. We do have security system. Yeah, so we definitely.
But you guys had to be mindful of that.
You have to be mindful of that. Yes, you have to be mindful of that. Yeah, everyone has to be stayed locked 24/7, especially having the service going on, things like that. People try to slip off and go into certain areas, so a lot of things are secured at our funeral home. Yeah, so definitely mindful of that. Yeah,
so much going on in the day to day.
It is a lot going on. Yeah, it's a lot going on. Yeah, and it's something. I was at a funeral recently this Monday, and a friend approached me like, you see, look at these young brothers. They passed away of fentanyl, and it's sad because they were in their 40s. And it's back to back, they passed away back to back. I didn't hear anything about it. And, it's crazy how they keep these things so low key, when it should be out in the public, letting people know that people are dying.
More and more deaths from this fentanyl.
More and more deaths from this fentanyl. And that's all I seem to see at the ME's office is you see, car accidents and homicides, but you see a lot of drug overdose. It's very alarming.
Wow.
Yeah, very alarming.
And it's been increasing over the years.
It's been increasing in Connecticut. It has been increasing, Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I talked to a person I normally talk to when I go up there. I said, this fentanyl must be slowing down. And that's like, I said it during COVID. She was like, no, it's speeding up. You would think, well, all that going on, that would decrease, but
well, not with COVID. They got people, I guess, with addictions had nothing else to do.
But they don't stop doing no
get a little higher, right?
Yeah.
Get a little higher. Get a little higher. Now, Chris, what advice would you give? Because you mentioned that it's tough for people to get in. What advice would you give? What are some of the qualities a person would need to have to get into a career in the funeral home business?
You have to be dedicated. You have to be very, very, very dedicated. Something that you want to do, not something that you feel that, hey, I can make good, make a living at a good living, and money's not going to keep you here. I'm gonna tell you that it has to be something you really, really want to do and that you love to do, and it spills over to the family, and just like if you don't want to do it, that also spills over to the family.
Right.
You want to make sure you go into the industry. I say it's something that you really should want to do, and that you really your heart and your mind's into it, and that that's your passion, because when it's not, it really shows. It really shows, and families pick up on it. Your staff picks up on it, but. I think if you're dedicated, because it's not as easy as people make it seem. You pick a person up, you bring them to the embalming room, you can be in there for 3 hours or longer. It depends on what kind of case you're dealing with. So every case is different,
Right.
And every family is different, Every family, some families that are really easygoing, they give you a high five when they walk out. Yeah, some families that you just can't seem to say anything right,
Right. So you don't take it personal.
No, I don't take it personal at all.
Right.
I keep the same demeanor. I don't let anybody get me out of the box. I'm just a person that's going to always be the same, and just, show them kindness, and love during that time, because I know it's a difficult time. And a lot of times people are going to say things, that they don't mean during a time like that,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now it's funny you mentioned all this, Chris, and I didn't have this written down, and I really want to ask the question because a lot of times as a business owner, 16 hours a day, you really limited to 3 and 4 days of vacation and things like that. Yeah, you're limited
to that. Yeah, unless you get a bigger staff, and you get a big staff, but you still you're still limited. You have to come and check in. You're the
You're
boss.
limited, right? But
Yeah.
there's a superstar. There's someone in the background
Hmm.
that allows you, to a certain extent, to be able to do all this.
Yes, yes.
Your wife.
Oh yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, she's a big supporter. Because a lot of times I'm out and about. I'm gone. I'm
Yeah,
gone. A lot of times when I get in, she might be asleep. You
right,
know, and a lot of times we'll be asleep and have to disturb her sleep and get up. 'Cause I got
right,
a call. Have other night, have a Sunday night.
right.
Around 1 in the morning. I had to get up. She's like, "Wow, what's going on?" Call. Okay, she understands. Because I
Yeah,
think she sees my love for it.
right.
And she, if I couldn't do this, I would be a very unhappy person.
Hey, but
Yeah,
Chris, a lot of times that makes or break a person. Not
yeah,
necessarily just a wife, it could be a husband
yeah. That's
that
true.
is
Yes,
just
you have to
not
have.
being supportive
Yeah,
of someone that
yeah, good.
is the head, is the
That's right.
director, is the one
That's
that
right.
someone is relying on,
Yeah,
and you're giving me a little more stress than what I actually need.
that's
And
right.
so
That's right.
I really, really want to applaud your wife
Oh yeah, I have to
as
for
well.
her to hang. Yeah, to her to deal with this and hang in there because a lot of times I'm gone. I'm gone a lot. And sometimes
And
I
it's
want
unexpected.
unexpected, and sometimes even when you're there, you still can be gone because your mind is
Yeah,
on something else.
right,
So you have to set aside that time for your wife as well and your kids. I have
right.
older kids and I don't see them that often, but I do set aside times. We go eat pizza and hang out. But
Yeah,
yeah, set aside time for your wife. Sometimes she say, "Hey, we gotta go," and
right.
I gotta get on the phone and make a call. And say, "Hey, I gotta go. I gotta be gone for 3 days." Whatever. So
Yeah.
you got to
Well,
do
that's
that when
great,
they want
man.
to go. Yeah,
That is a lot of what's missing nowadays. I
yeah.
mean, that cheerleader that
She's my
gives you
biggest cheerleader.
gives
That's
you
my
that
biggest
balance,
cheerleader.
but she helps you stay
Yeah.
balanced.
She has to stay balanced. That's right. She tells me that it's time to go out and do something instead of
Right.
just you can't keep staying at the funeral home all day. You got to go out and do something, which I appreciate that. My kids appreciate that as well. They say, "Dad, it wasn't for your mother, for Tasha, you would be working all the time." They know that. They know I'm a
Right, right.
workaholic. I was in the Army for quite a few years, so they know that's where I want to be. Working. So that's just what I do. Yeah. So I grew up
Wow.
working. My dad put me to work early, so
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
had his business. He had a restaurant for many years, so yeah,
Okay,
put
so
me
you
to
come
work.
from an entrepreneur type family.
Yes, 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 that is correct. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, Chris, I don't want to hold you too much longer. You got a wife,
Yep.
you got Netflix and
Yeah,
everything else to get to. I do want
that's
to
right.
ask you just a couple more questions. I
Okay.
really, really appreciate you, man. You've given us everything, and I know eventually I'm gonna bring you back just to talk some more about some other parts of the
That'd be
industry
great.
that you're in.
I look
But
forward to
more
that.
importantly, right now, while I got you here,
Hmm.
let me just ask you, what would your older self, you now,
Hmm.
what would you tell your younger self, Chris?
My younger self to get more serious about life when you're in your early 20s. Get very, very serious, and just find what you want to do earlier in life. It'll really benefit you when you get older. And those decisions you make when you're 20 years old, they're gonna affect the rest of your life, unfortunately. So you
Mm-hmm.
got to make very, very wise decisions while you're young. I didn't always make the most wise decisions when I was young, but thank God he showed mercy, and I came out on the winning side. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us did not come out on the winning side. So we have to make sure we make very wise choices. And I had a teacher one time tell me, pick your profession before it picks you, because if it picks you, chances are you're not going to like it.
Wow.
So you got to make wise choices because they're definitely going to follow you down the road, and your reputation is everything. Your name is everything. So don't take lightly of what you do out there and how you live, because it's going to follow you.
Mm, mm. Last question, Chris. You've given us a lot of yourself, man. You've given us a lot of information. You've even brought Tasha, your
Yeah,
superstar, into it,
that's
man.
right.
You know what I mean? She's with us on this podcast. She don't know it though. We
Yeah.
celebrating you too, Tasha. All right.
Yeah.
But let me just say this. Is there anything that we have not discussed that you want to make sure you say? I
Hmm.
don't want to not turn over every stone. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that you give what you know that people need to hear about what you do and what they need to know about it.
Well, I don't know. That's a hard go. Nothing that really can, that really stands out. That's really going to stand out. Nothing I can really think of that really stands out. You know.
All right, that's good. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to cut you off, or
No, no.
maybe I missed the question. I didn't want to miss nothing,
Yeah.
because you were really clear and impactful in the stories and the information that you gave.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have spoken on a few different occasions, and you were really the energy that you had. I didn't have to ask. I didn't have to explain much. Right away, you said yes, I will
Yeah.
do it. And so I felt the energy, and I felt the love for what you do, and for the love of giving that person um, that well going, that farewell, that
Exactly.
celebration of life, as
That's
we
right.
say in our community,
That's
the
right.
celebration of
Celebration.
life,
That's right.
that's just wonderful. I can't even really put it into words. Can't even put it into words. But if there'll be nothing else, as we say, Chris, we're gonna wrap it up.
All
Again,
right.
I thank you. I thank you. I thank you,
You're very welcome. Thank you for
Chris
inviting me on.
G. And when I'm back in Connecticut, I will I will definitely get over there to see you. I know
Yes.
exactly where you are because I went to school at Bassett.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I walk by all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know nothing about that place, you know. But definitely, I appreciate you. Thank you for your
Oh, you're
time.
very welcome. Thank
And I
you.
know that it's funny. My brother, real quick, I told him, he said, "What you doing?" I says, "I'm preparing to talk to a funeral director." He said, "Oh,
Mhm.
really?" He got all excited. He said, "That's
Yeah.
good." I said, I said, "Derek, sometimes you want to say stuff to your family
Mhm.
that you cannot say directly.
That's right.
So Chris, you're speaking to my family as well
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
tonight. So you've been,
Yeah.
there's some things, like I say, you can't ever say things directly sometimes to your family.
That's right. You're right.
They
That is
think
true.
you're judging them. They think you're doing this, and who are you to say that?
That's right.
Okay, forget it. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's go ask the man that sees it.
Every day. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. You're right.
All
That's
right.
right.
So again, I thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, man.
All right. Have a good night.
You
Have a
too,
good one.
brother.
Thank you.
What a great show tonight. We just heard from Chris G, funeral director, licensed mortician of Lester G Funeral Home in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this was not a ploy to get you to do business with his funeral home. What this was information that was given out. And ask yourself, re-listen, and ask yourself, what have you learned? What have you learned? The main thing is we've learned, some of the things that we've learned tonight is do it now. Make sure you secure your funeral, your last day arrangements. Okay? Make sure you do that. It's your responsibility to do that. Don't leave it up to your kids. Don't leave it up to other loved ones. Don't do the GoFundMe's. As Chris mentioned, they're not even working the way they used to. Okay? There's things in place to replace that. You can also make payments directly to the funeral home. You can prepay directly through the funeral home. There's other trusts that you can set up through the funeral home to make payments to make sure you pay for your um, last going, your homegoing service, your celebration of your life. Have something to do with the celebration of your life, because whether you like it or not, one day we all going to the upper room. As my cousin Stacy Brooks says, we gonna go to the upper room. Okay? And let's not move away from it. Let's not shy away from it. Let's embrace it and do something about it. Let's have something to say about the way we go out. Whether you want to be cremated, whether you want to be memorialized, whether you want a closed casket or open casket, put it in writing. Make sure you do that. Make sure you do that. Until next time, you've just listened to another episode of Willing to Talk About It. I am your host, Daryl Harmon. It's been my pleasure to bring you this information. Until next time, keep winning. Keep your hand on the